Hey guys, so we are going to do story time. I want to tell you how I packed up with kids two different times. One time I moved from one state to another, and then I moved from one state to out the country. Neither time did I give myself a backup plan to move back home because I knew that my plan was to make a home in this new place. And so I'm going to tell you the story about how I packed my bags. I left Chicago, moved to Atlanta, and then I left Atlanta and moved across the world. So initially, I moved from Chicago. So I'm from Illinois. And I was at that time when I moved to Atlanta. So that's how I started. I moved to Atlanta. I had already moved around a couple times, but not anywhere far. I moved to Atlanta at about, I believe I was 23. I had a daughter who was 3 going on 4, single mom. Didn't know anybody in Atlanta. Well, I knew one person, but I didn't know anything about it, had never lived there or anything. And then I decided that I was going there. And I did that because, so I had dropped out of school when I was in high school, went back and got a GED. When I left, I had just finished my associate's degree in education, but like I'm saying Chicago, but I was in like outside of Chicago. So there weren't really a lot of like opportunities for me to really grow. And even at a young age, I knew that it was like, I need to go somewhere else. And at that time, this is back in like 2003. I'm like, let me try Atlanta. My cousin, she lives there. She goes to school. And maybe I'll go there and I'll go back to school and see where it takes me. And so I wanted to know where, how far I can go if I moved to Atlanta from Chicago, where it would take me. But people always, they either said I was going to be back or, like, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? Like, what was the plan B? And for me, I'm just like, I don't have a plan B. Like, I'm not going to create a plan B for me to go back because the thing is, I feel like if you move somewhere and or just doing things in life, if you always have this thing to fall back on, it doesn't really push you forward. And I'm not saying don't have backup plans for things, but I'm saying that if at the top of your mind you're just like, I'm just going to, go back. I think that you are less able to kind of go with the ups and downs of your decisions and, actually make it work. And that's how it is in business and life. And it was the same thing for me. When I moved to Atlanta, again, I told you I was like 23. I had a little baby, a toddler, and a single mom. And so, I went there. I did enroll in school. And so I ended up enrolling in like Georgia State, but I had come from a small community college. I found me an apartment, wasn't like the best thing that I wanted, but I like made it work. I went to Georgia State for just like a semester, but realized it was just way too overwhelming for me because I came from a really small school. And so I decided to go to school online and then just get, I got a job then. So I worked as like a substitute teacher. And then, a couple years later, I worked for the IRS. But it was, great because the time that I spent in Georgia, and I'm going to tell you, it was about 20 years almost, if 19 or 20 years. I eventually, graduated from college. I went to law school, got a law degree, open and run a few very successful businesses that I run today. Since then, now I have 3 more children, so I have 4. So I went from that little toddler to another group of another group of kids. But the thing is, it was really great while I was there and while it lasted because it really helped me do things that I never thought I could do, wanted to do, but where I was from, I didn't really see a lot of representation in like Black women going to law school or being doctors. And so I think Atlanta was that thing for me. So I'm really grateful for my time there. But I did know at some point it was time to move on. So recently, well, let me give you this backstory. So I run Yanni Beauty. So I am the founder of Yanni Beauty, which is a clean beauty brand and specialty retail store. We own two specialty retail stores in the Atlanta area, and things were going really great since 2020. But then last year, like the beginning of last year, things just got shitty. I'm just going to be honest. Sales got slow, rent got higher, things that just was just getting, it wasn't the best. But even prior to, the business ups and downs, I knew maybe years before that, I think I had outgrown my space there, my time there. And that's a personal thing, like not the people or the place, but just knowing when it's time to move on and make a change. And so I was, traveling a lot, traveling around the world, and really seeing like all of the other things out there. And not just for me personally, for my children, but also for my business. And so I really started to think about the possibilities of leaving the US. I know a lot of people in the US, they may not even think about it. It's just like, oh no, but I think it's becoming more common. So anyway, in 2024, things started to slow down, business started to get harder. And so I had to make some pivots with the business, one of which is to start to only have the business online versus a retail store, so that we could save on like those expenses and end up starting to make the money that we had made before. During the same time where business started to go up and down, I also joined a business program that helps entrepreneurs who already have like employees to really scale their businesses. I do consulting for, new entrepreneurs, but this is like program is once you are past that new stage, you're ready to grow, and they have like all of these team of experts. And so at that time I was going through that program, and I was also traveling a lot, just looking at places, thinking about places we can go based on like safety, education, space for, to have a business, those things like that. And one of the things that was just like aha moment is, in my business, that you can stop this part of your business, but also pivot to this part. And I had pivoted before, but this was such a totally different thing, because they said that my business advisor told me I was closing one business and opening another, but it was the same business. And that was really like a light bulb moment, that it was okay for me to stop this part of Yanni Beauty and to do this other thing. And it all worked in divine time, because it was also the point where I had decided, yes, I am relocating out of the country. I have found the place, and I'm like, let me start putting the things in action in order to make that happen. And even, thinking about me moving to another country, I still never had the idea of like, hey, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back. I'm like already, selling my home, giving all my things away, and just really starting over, because first of all, I want to like detach from that consumerism kind of attitude and always needing things and wanting more and more and more, which I started to see over time. Atlanta had become a big proponent for people showing out, just wanting to, say they had more than what they had or doing more than what they did. And it wasn't just a fit at that point for me. And so I knew I wanted to be more of a minimalist and just live the life of just kind of like, what I say, like quiet luxury, and but more so like peace. Like I'm all about like mindfulness and meditation and just having peace in my own body and spirit. And so that's what I was looking for. And being able to detach from our retail business stores in that way, even though it was hard, allowed me to really embrace the thought of I can actually leave and have no hard feelings. So one of the things, the questions I got from Chicago to Atlanta, and especially Atlanta to out the country, and if you don't know, I live in Portugal. So I live in Europe, in Portugal, and the number one question is always, are you scared? The answer is no, because I am not fearful of decisions that I make for my life. I do, really research it. I weigh the pros and cons, of course, for a decision that big. And so when I decided this was the place, I knew it was the place. And even if it isn't perfect, I know I would make it the home for me and my children. And I say children, but two of them are like adults. Two of them are like 19 and 23. So, but, I do still have two younger ones who are still school age. And so I knew that whatever is happening here, that I would make it work. Because I think as people and as founders and as creators, we need to learn how to move through fear instead of avoiding it, because I think a lot of us get stuck where we are personally and professionally because we're scared to move forward, scared to try new things, scared to make a pivot, scared we're going to lose something, right? But the truth of the matter is, you may not be losing anything. You have to think about all the things that you can gain, and then know that you are strong enough and wise enough to make decisions for your life that will work out for your own good. So when I think about the move from Chicago to Atlanta to Portugal, I always have to think about it. I don't have to, but I always think about it in a personal sense and a business sense, because I am a business owner. I have been a business owner for half of my life. And so, running a business is something that I have to do. That is my livelihood, right? And so during those over 20 years of being an entrepreneur, being a small business owner, I have learned a thing or two about pivoting a business. So just for instance, in 2020, we had a retail store, of course, I talked about it before, have a retail store, but then COVID happens, and then, people aren't coming out shopping. You have social distancing. And so you're trying to be quick on your toes and think about how you can pivot your business. Or the economy starts to get sucky, and now people aren't buying the things they were buying. Like for Yanni Beauty, we're a masstige beauty brand, which means that our product prices are not like, beauty supply or Dollar Tree prices, but they're also not like luxury prices. They're like right in the middle. And so people decide that I don't need the wants, right? Times are getting hard. Cost of living is getting hard. I don't have time to buy a $20 lipstick. I need to focus on food and eggs that cost $8 to $9. And so, even having to think about that pivot in my own business, which meant that we had to close the store and go 100% online, at least for the time being, because we still have to, keep the business afloat, but we can't have all of those overhead costs. And so we have had a pivot many times within Yanni Beauty alone, but of course, over my 20 years of being a business owner, have had to pivot so many times. And I think that when we think about our business and our lives at the same time, there is a parallel between knowing when to move on from something, and in a business that will be a pivot, or if in your life you decided that I'm going to take the leap and move, to another state or another city or even another country, right? And so I'm just going to end it, just give you my final thoughts. The whole point of when I thought about making this video was thinking about the power of change. The power of trusting yourself, believing in yourself, the power of knowing that if your business has to change, that you are not a failure. You have learned to fail fast is what we say. Especially in business and consultants, you have to learn how to fail fast, right? And failing fast may mean a pivot. It may mean changing your business model. It may mean stopping one product that you thought you loved, but it didn't sell well. And so you came up with a new product, or a service that you thought everybody would bite, but nobody wants that service. And so you decided you're going to offer another service. Or even like us, moving from, a brick and mortar retail store to online, that's not failing. That those are true pivots. But the power of change, right, can be transformational for us as entrepreneurs, as founders, as creatives, because you get the opportunity to see things from a different lens. You get different perspectives. So I've only been in Portugal for a month, and just the differences in culture, the different perspectives is something I am so open and welcoming in my life at this time, because I know the power of change, and I know what good comes on the other end of change. So what I want to ask you, have you done any changes recently? Have you moved? Have you pivoted your business? What's the biggest risk you've taken? Whatever it is, comment below. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a founder, if you're a creative, and you've done it in your business, let me know those changes. But also, if you've done it in your personal life, let me know those changes as well, because as a business consultant that also focuses on the whole person, like the mindfulness of a person, I always kind of want to know what's happening in their lives somewhat, right? Because our personal lives will absolutely affect our business lives. And so just thinking about, are you a risk taker? What is the biggest risk you've taken? Are you thinking about, some major move in your personal life or professional life? Let me know in the comments.